Can you rush your way to a legacy as you leave office? Well, Valerie Plante certainly wants to leave behind a legacy project as she pushes through with a revitalization, a new plan for Camillien Houde Way and Mount Royal Park. Peter Trent is on the line and joins us as we kick off the third hour of the program. Longtime mayor of Westmount. Peter, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
And I should point out, you served 5 terms as mayor of Westmount. Lots of wins under your belt.
Yes, I did. And that in between those, or among those, was, of course, the amalgamation where I lost my seat, or I was diselected by the mergers, and I was a private citizen, but there we are.
Yeah. So, Peter, listen, you penned this piece in the Montreal Gazette looking at a couple of projects that are, quote-unquote, being pushed through here as Mayor Valerie Plante leaves office. Also, the mayor of Westmount, Christina Smith, will be leaving office come November. But I do want to ask you, you've been in those offices, right? You've been mayor. That is part of being mayor, is big projects at times. So tell our listeners here why you take issue. Let's start off with Valerie Plante first, because that's the big one here. Why do you take issue with this push?
Well, I think the whole point is she didn't have an electoral mandate to close off Camillien Houde to vehicular traffic. And so it seems to me that once a fair amount of resistance is arisen, it's not appropriate for her to go ahead with it because she has no electoral mandate. She has a lot of people who are angry about it. And most importantly, she's already said she's not going to run again. So based on that, it doesn't make sense for her to proceed as if somehow she has a mandate from the citizenry to go ahead with this project.
Listen, I'll push back because I think it's my duty to push back. Obviously, Projet Montreal, they've got the seats at City Hall, and some would argue that she's got a base that's been very vocal and that she does have that support, even if she's leaving. And the other aspect is, does every mayor, if they announce they're leaving, instantly become a lame duck that can no longer do any projects, right?
No, I think there's certainly minor projects have no problem at all. I did the Westmount Recreation Center, but of course that was done in the middle of my mandate, so I feel very comfortable with that. I think the whole point is if a lot of people are against it, and forget the composition of City Hall for the moment, it's what really counts are the taxpayers. They aren't sitting in Montreal City Hall. And the taxpayers are upset with her plan. And I think she has to realize that and give it over to the next group who winds up being elected to City Hall to look at the whole thing and decide what to do. As you know, the opposition leader, or the one who will be opposition leader, or indeed mayor, has already said that she's going to make that whole project come to a screeching halt.
Mm-hmm. Well, that in and of itself, doesn't make it a ballot box question and precisely what we want here? And I know there has been some money spent. There was a $12 million contract, of course. Yep. So I know the taps have been opened, but isn't there plenty of time here, truthfully, to make it a ballot box issue and do have the voters decide come November?
I suppose, but I think the whole point is to start working on detailed plans of something that most Montrealers, would appear, are against. And don't forget, in a poll that was taken back in October last year, for every Montrealer who wants her to stay, there's 2 who want her to go. So I think given that level of unpopularity, it is really inappropriate, misguided, to proceed with a project of this nature that is very controversial. And I think she should leave it and not spend money even working on plans when it's very likely whoever gets in will actually stop the whole thing and figure out some other way. Keep in mind, this has been going on now for 7 years. Mm-hmm. It was 2018 when they remember that experiment they first.
Of course, I know all the experiments. Disaster. Of course,
so they've been messing about with this now for seven years.
But that's the thing, Peter. They've been messing around with it, and they won an election in that time. Like voters rewarded them at a certain point, right? So that's why I say, well, geez, they got the votes, they got the seats, and they have a base that loves them.
No, but I think what you do, if you have the votes and it was part of your election platform, I would agree with you. But it wasn't. Don't forget, at that time, they had, after very detailed consultation, they arrived at the idea that they would have vehicular access to Camillien Houde. So at the time she was elected, that was what was being proposed. Mm-hmm. So she's essentially come around 180 degrees, which, for all those reasons, I say it's inappropriate for her to just barrel ahead with this thing, railroad the whole thing through, and spend money on a project that's very likely to be reversed.
We're with Peter Trent, a former longtime mayor of Westmount, recently published a piece in the Montreal Gazette about a duo of mayors who are pushing projects through as they leave office. Now, let's talk about the other example you bring up, and of course it's from your neck of the woods in Westmount. Yeah. Christina Smith has been on the show many times over the years, right? She seems very affable, by the way, and it seems like she does have some support in Westmount as well. She's won re-election in her case. So what's your take? You got an issue here with the bike path here, and it's not lost on me, Peter, both with Camillien Houde Way and with this plan in Westmount. Bikes are somewhat involved. Tell me about this.
Well, there are two things, problems I have with Mayor Smith. One is the bike path she wants to put on Claremont, and that has the same slope, by the way, as Camillien Houde. So only very athletic bikers will ever use it. And so many people, not just me, have complained that really we should not be putting a bike path on a street that is already served by buses and other things. And it's a bike path that goes uphill, above Sherbrooke. But my real problem is nothing to do with bikes. It's the rezoning she wants to put through, or a new plan for Southeast Westmount. And what she wants to do is go back to the old 60s mentality of putting up tons of high-rises, which we did allow in Westmount back in the 60s, but we regret now. And there's huge opposition there. Mm. And for her to proceed with this and even adopt a council resolution on this plan that essentially nullifies any current zoning, I think it really is wrong. I think that she should allow the next council to make a decision on this. And again, there was no mention of such a plan when she got elected 3 years ago. So once again, it's right at the last moment. She's pushing it through, railroading it through, when the vast majority of people who've been consulted, we're talking over 500 people, they don't want it. So I think it's really appropriate to say, okay, fine, elegantly, let the next council decide what to do with this project.
So let me just ask you, because, and she's been on this show to defend that, actually, that the idea that area of Westmount needs to be redeveloped. And I don't live in Westmount, but I can see both sides of that equation. But one thing that must not be lost on you is, as someone that's been the mayor of Westmount, there is a need for revenue, and everyone's struggling here with a need for revenue, and you want to increase the tax base. That area of Westmount is pretty dilapidated, Peter. It's not the greatest it's not the greatest part. I've driven through there. It's not the greatest part. I don't know. For part of me says, well, it would be nice if you got, some housing and other things in that area.
I agree with the idea of revitalization of the area. I'm just objecting to the height of the buildings primarily. But when it comes to that argument that you need the tax base, the only way when you want to really increase revenue is to have commercial buildings, not residential, because all municipal services are consumed per capita. So the minute you increase your population, you increase the demand on services, and so the revenue is eaten away by the increased population. Mm-hmm. But most importantly, on the island of Montreal, is a thing called the agglo. And what happens if you wind up with new development? The agglo gets half of the revenue indirectly for it. So what's left for Westmount is really only half of the extra taxes they will get.
Peter, you going to run?
For these two reasons, it doesn't make any sense.
You got to run, don't you? Don't you want to get back in the game? I mean, you listen, and I don't know where you're living right now, but you could take aim at Montreal or Westmount. Why not you get back in the game here? You seem interested.
No. After 5 terms is enough. Thank you very much.
All right. Peter, listen, we'll leave it there. Thanks for hopping on today.
Right. Yep.
Peter Trent, a former longtime mayor of Westmount. That column in the Gazette is called "Don't Ram Through Contested Bike Path Projects on Your Way Out as Mayor."